Okay, welcome to another episode of Inbox Invaders, where we talk about everything related to email, SMS marketing, and how that impacts retention marketing as well. Today, I have a very special guest joining me, Oliver Spark from Suite Analytics, an e-commerce analytics platform that makes it easy for people to get insights from the data and to action the data. Thank you so much for joining me on this call.
Well, it's very nice to see you, and we began obviously by you actually being complimentary about London, which took some dragging out from you.
It was good to also meet you in person. I loved it. Talk to me about yourself, roughly how you got started in this particular business and the problems you guys are solving with Suite Analytics.
Yeah, so my background is I'm a retailer myself. My principal, there's a business here in the UK called The White Company. I ran that for a number of years. We grew that from, during my tenure from 6 to 50 million. And so I come to this being somebody who's been used to running businesses, and my fundamental belief is that you need data to run your business successfully, particularly if you're wanting to grow. And so I set up Suite 6 years ago in order to, sounds a bit sort of a Remington Shave advert thing, to sort of create the platform that I thought I wanted as a CEO or marketing leader of a business. And I've been doing this for 6 years. We work for a couple of hundred brands. And the problem we're really solving is being able to give people access to their data really simply. And then really importantly, one of the sort of differences for us is around what we call growth forecasting, which is effectively understanding where someone wants to go, because that then, going back to your world, that's a combination of retention and acquisition, and understanding that interplay between those two is the key things. And being honest, we all talk customer lifetime value, we talk CAC, but quite rarely do I find that people really understand that those metrics that allow them to achieve that growth and success, which most brand owners want.
Excellent recap. I think it resonates so well with me. I've also been toying with data probably for the last 10 to 15 years. I used to be in the SEO field, and then I moved into paid ads and conversion rate optimization. And I've always had massive struggles, exactly like you say. How do we collect data? How do we normalize it and clean it? How do we visualize it in a dashboard? How do we interpret it? How do we forecast? All these problems is for the normal marketer out there is pretty damn difficult to obtain, especially with the move to GA4. Some people hate it, some people love it. Appreciate you just highlighting some of these things.
Yeah, I think so, and I don't know whether it's worth me sort of showing you a bit as we go through, but I think there are a couple of areas that I know cross over into your world, which in particular. So we particularly we have a number of clients who do direct mail. I mean, let's just say everybody does email, and I can talk about what we do there. But direct mail is a particular area for some people. My own, White Company, if you don't know it, from the UK, started off as a direct mail business. I've been involved in lots of direct mail businesses, and what we do in Suite is we provide. Effectively, we have an audience builder that allows for the creation of normal segmentation, etc. And then we load the data back. So let's assume someone wants their data, that goes out to a mailing house, it gets usual suppression files run in, and then we load it back into Suite. So we can then effectively do live matchbacks in the platform and effectively understand those results. There's no waiting for a month afterwards. And in particular, it gives us what we would call a touch point. So we understand which of those customers come from direct mail, have had interact with direct mail, and also because we're connected to Klaviyo and the other email platforms, we understand the individual interactions with those platforms as well. So if I know we're doing this live, and I'm probably gonna have to click around a little bit as we
It's perfectly fine.
This is live. If I just sort of go into what we call our campaign manager in Suite, this is direct mail, and I'm just literally just clicking on something that I've come into here. What we're doing is we've loaded up the data. So this is just a small campaign. what people are mailing, whether it's driving new customers, existing customers. This is a day-by-day match back, so you can understand how the performance works. You can drill down to all those normal, campaign type activities that you would see. So cold list, house file splits, we can keep going down and down into the detail. But what's really important is it does two things. One, I think it gives brands access to live direct mail reporting. Secondly, it brings it in for us into another source of costs. And ultimately, as you can see here, we're connected to all the usual marketing platforms. And what that gives us is access to how much money is a brand spending, which is key, and then ultimately into that key metric of what is your CAC. So really, really importantly for us, it's really understanding that. And, if I take usual stuff, everything's date pickable and all the rest of it. But, being able to get what the costs are by channel, and then most importantly, relating that into cost per acquisition. So I'll stop sharing for the moment just on that, but just that's the real difference. So, all your marketing information in one place, including direct mail and your email.
Very solid, very solid. You touch on a extremely sensitive point for us as email marketers. And again, I can be transparent here. We once did a direct mail campaign. It was back in the day when we were quite new to it. Launched everything, all the creatives, everything was in place, sent it off, and measuring the impact of that was almost impossible. So we lost immediate trust with that particular brand, and from there on out, they never wanted to run with direct mail again, just because there was no way to measure its impact. Talk to me about, I think you kind of mentioned the platforms that integrate into the tool. If you talk about direct mail, Post, Pilot, all those type of direct mail tools, do they also plug into Suite Analytics to extract data, or is it restricted in a certain way?
No, it's not restricted, and probably separate as we talk about who we can, effectively, we're a browser-based platform, so the anybody who's running the selection process we have an audience builder in Suite, and again, I'll just share again. So one of the other real benefits of Suite is this is data. We make all our data totally accessible for people. So we do all the usual things like, we integrate into Google Ads, into Facebook. We're doing a lot of work on Amazon, where we're pushing first-party data into Amazon. But what you can do very simply in Suite is create an audience based on static or dynamic. They integrate into Klaviyo, into all the platforms. So if you want to, and it's a really simple drag and drop system, but effectively, I just want people who ordered within a particular period or had a Shopify tag, or all that segmentation overlaid with email, got a last email, hasn't opened an email for a long time, or whatever. All of that we can combine into what we call audiences, which can then do all this segmentation piece. So, one of the real benefits of Suite is around segmentation.
And then in audience, the cohorts, just the segments, you can sync it from Klaviyo. You can plug it into Klaviyo and then back from Klaviyo into Suite, correct? So there's a constant two-way syncing of the data.
Exactly that. And one of the other things we do for Klaviyo, which I know, we obviously met when you were over in London for their last conference, and they've launched whatever this was it the one where they're trying to pull all the information into one place. But we've always had multi-currency in Klaviyo, and able to report that in one place. So again, because we're connected through to all of them. So if I take email flows, for instance, these guys used to be on MailChimp. They're in different countries. So if I only wanted to look at my US data, I can look at it all in dollars, and just look at my US campaigns. If I want to combine those campaigns across countries and use, look at UK in one place, then we do a normalization of currency. So I think, I know that you'll be able to give me the phrase better, but, I think clearly they've moved forward a lot with how you can report on Klaviyo. But again, we make that whole Klaviyo reporting really simple. And again, the overall point about Suite is, whether it's your sales information or your marketing ad spend information, it's all in one place. And I've exhibited, how you can get to it. So it's really simple is the answer.
Got it. The one thing that always interests me in these tools, so we get a question of, I'm not to deep dive into this topic because that will take us probably in the next 7 years, is attribution.
Yeah.
Now, I always have this concern when I look at Klaviyo, because we are so heavily invested in Klaviyo, Yotpo, email. The concern I always have is when you send off an email or an SMS or whatever push notification, we tend to view that touch point, that the performance of that touch point in isolation. How many revenue did this email generate, or the emails for the month? What you don't take into account is that sometimes it takes 24 emails for someone to convert. So are you telling me that the audience builder and plugging that into Suite, it doesn't care about the attribution? Someone could receive 24 emails and then only convert. So that data you can have within the tool, as opposed to almost being single-sided with a one-to-one.
Exactly, but you're right. We could do 4 hours on the attribution topic probably, rather than 5 minutes. But yeah, broadly, our sort of view on life is, you've quite clearly got your Klaviyo attribution model. Our view on all native platform attribution models is they're consistent but wrong, but they're wrongly consistent. So they've got a value in their own piece. But I think the particular piece around email, which I find most interesting, is actually the Klaviyo numbers are really wrong in terms of ultimately how much money have I got in the till, which is the key thing. But what you really want to be able to do is really understand things like how many people have you moved from first purchase to second purchase, second purchase to third purchase. Those are in real world is my view is what really matters, and that's what we do quite a lot of work with, and really understanding the things like the email process for driving that's really important.
I love it.
So, yeah.
And we know getting those numbers straight from the ESP, the email service platform, is extremely difficult.
Yeah.
It requires a lot of hacking and filtering and exporting. It's ugly. It's very, very ugly.
I mean, the Klaviyo APIs, I've been doing this for 6 years. We, spent 5 years, they made some big improvements about a year ago on the APIs. We can get to much better stuff, but it's been hard work, Klaviyo APIs for a long time. They are better, and really are better. But if you think we've got two sources of information, we understand everything from Shopify. If we just take the usual tech stack, Shopify, we understand everything from Klaviyo, and we marry those two bits of information together.
Oh, stunning. The other thing that I've also picked out here, I was just looking at some of your product pages on the right-hand side here, is I do like you've got metrics here, or line graphs, where you plot out the actuals and then also the targets. You also mentioned forecasting and so on. Could you just talk about that as well? Because I know we are, as email marketers, so sorry to all the prospects and all the clients and so on, but email marketers are very reactive when it comes to reporting. Like we don't necessarily forecast the potentials. So super keen to learn more about that, how that enables email SMS marketers to be better at reporting future growth.
Yeah, I think just stepping one step back, I think generally one of the things that I feel agencies in particular channels lack is an overview of the total business. So we're a browser-based platform. So if your client wanted, to give you access, there's that's everybody having the same information. And the particular thing that we do is we have a thing called a growth model. And what a growth model does is we've got all the history of the brand, and we put everyone into a cohort at the beginning of a financial year. So this is a brand that's grown from 1 million to 4.5 million. Yeah. and we understand at customer level where those sales have come from. So it's the old D2C funnel. You pour people in at the top, yeah. As you go on existing for longer, yeah, you have more, as long as you have some kind of retention value to that. So, this brand is growing, but 400 grand of its growth came from effectively those extra people that came in during this previous year. And so the key question we want to know with any brand is, where do you want to go? So, this example, they're at 4 million. We have a model which we use then to create their forecast and their goals. So we've worked with this brand to create their goals. So we know out of those discussions how many new customers they want, what the AOV should be, how many orders they should get, and existing customers. And then so we know what we know what the goal is, and then what we do is every week we're recalculating what we call the brand's run rate, and effectively saying, do we think you're going to hit your budget or not? So most brands start with a white space, as we call it. They're wanting to grow from where they were at the beginning of the year, and what's really important is that most people are motivated by hitting budget. And actually what you want to know is, pretty early on, do we think you've got a run rate that's going to hit it or not? And in this example, we're obviously flagging that if this brand only carries on what it's doing at the moment, it's only summer and it's only over for a few weeks of the year, it's going to end up a mile off. So it forces management teams to really think about, are you going to hit your targets? Which, for most of us is actually the driver of how you operate.
Very smart. And I think that is something that will give any email SMS marketer, retention marketers quite an edge on the rest, because me and you, we both know how email can impact, immediate sales. If for argument's sake, we see that we are off track in reaching that target, we could do a big push, out of stock or running low stock campaign, or pushing stock that's been sitting in some warehouse that we can ship out and try and hit those numbers. But if we don't know these numbers, and you just to your prior point where you've said that firstly you give marketers the view into the entire business finances and numbers, many times we don't have that. So we work in extreme isolation. If you give me a graph like this as an email marketer and I see, Dan, we off here. If I go to my particular client or team and I say, dudes, we can do a big push to try and close the gap here, they will love me for it. But I think we are extremely siloed in that view and very naive towards it. So I love seeing stuff like this where you show the gap, like you say, the runway gap there. And if you don't have it available, how do you act on it?
Yeah, and I think, and I'm sorry, I started sharing while you were still talking, but one of the things I really love and use a lot is, so if you just see what I've got on screen now, so this is, and I think this is super useful for people like yourself. So these guys, we know, like, we're halfway through July, yeah, and I'm here showing metrics at gross sales level, but I'll put it into customer level, and I'll look at existing customers rather than all customers, yeah. So let's assume, what you want to do. This isn't the most great example, but what this does, if you saw what I did here, I put it into full period, so effectively you can look forward. And what I call it is, it's not bumping into the mountains. So as most people are sort of driven, I want to beat last year or whatever. And what this functionality does is it begins to allow you to see, well, what happened last year, what drove that. And sometimes there are big mountains that people have to do. So it's really important to have that forward view. And I find we do this a lot with people working on retention. How on earth am I going to get to, let's say there was a big spike here. What am I doing in order to drive that spike? Or, did I have something that came back in stock last year and created such a big spike? There's absolutely no way I can hit that target. But what's important is at least knowing what's ahead is too often, there's nothing worth ending up at the end of the month saying we didn't achieve target because actually last year we did something, and actually we didn't, we didn't have a comparable this year to do. So that's a functionality I really like to us.
Actually, kind of when it makes me cry, because it just once again highlights how reactive, that's the right word, yeah, reactive we are with data. Wait for the end of the month, you just wait for 5 more days so the attribution window, closes off, and then you report on success. Cool. While we're busy working on the following month's, visuals, that's how we all kind of function. But having this proactive ability or power is just something else, isn't it? I like the like you say, how you can, visualize or identify, those bumps prior to you even reaching that point, to exactly determine if there was an artificial inflation that we need to take into account, rather than once again reactively. When you do reporting, you see, okay, we're actually off year over year. Let's now figure out what's going on. And this is why data utilization and so on is so powerful, and we don't necessarily talk about it often enough.
But I think it's nice to hear you say that. I mean, exactly that. All of us have got the same goal, which is to drive business performance. And having been an operator myself, I am slightly trying to give people tools that I know I sort of wanted. I would want, if I was in your, planning the next month's worth of email, you don't really want to do it on day 5 and then get to the end. You want to look at, well, what happened last year? Gosh, spike. I would love to, one day I'll have some AI thing that tells you what all those spikes are. But it's not that difficult to click around and find out what it is. But it's really important to understand the shape. Shapes are really important in my view of life.
Oh, that's stunning. Talking about having great data on the other end of the tool, which we all want to get to. How does the tool handle? And we've had this problem recently. We started using funnel.io, pull data in from Klaviyo via the API piping tool. Very nice, all good. Push it into Looker Studio, great. But preparing the data, cleaning the data, noisy data, kind of makes it useless. What do you guys have? Is there anything within tool that helps with cleaning up data? Because I have seen too many BI tools fall flat because data is just polluted and noisy. Kind of makes it renders the entire thing useless.
Yeah, I think we have two comments really there. So the first bit about the whole Looker funnel.io, that requires a skill set that and as a tool, we work for SMEs, so sub 50 million type brands generally. I have a firm belief that until you can afford to have 2 analysts, you're really carrying business risk, because they build that lovely stuff in Funnel and Looker, then it breaks, then they go away, and etc. So unless you can afford to have 2 people so you can moderate your risk, you're building yourself. Maybe you may build the dream for 3 months, then the guy leaves, then they go away. So the whole point of Suite is we are, it takes 15 minutes to set Suite up. It's really quick. And we're trying to take away that hassle because we've done all the API work. We've hit more problems of data than God. I believed when I started Suite, it was just going to be a quick job of we could just build some APIs into all these places, and it was all going to be easy, and it was it. And even Shopify is, it's complex. Nothing. It's very rare that data's truly simple. So I'd be lying to say we solved every problem, but we'd certainly like to say we've solved a lot of those problems rather painfully over time.
Very smart, very smart. Tell me also, this is going to be a bit of a on-the-spot question. I don't know if it's going to, throw you off course here. So I've got options here, right? I can go to Triple Whale, I can go to Northbeam, I can just use the native tool.
Yeah.
Like, how Suite different to all those other tools?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So I think and at the other end you've got Lifetimely as well. So let's just Yeah, because you mean, I think we on our call before something we were talking about it, but you've exactly that. You've got a range of tools. What I think we do better than anyone else is I think at an affordable price. Yeah, so we're less expensive than the first couple that you mentioned. I think we give a retailer's view of understanding their data more simply at a better value than the others do. So that's really how I think we differentiate. And the second bit, which is that audience builder piece, is really being able to use your data really simply is really important, because one of the biggest problems I always found is, you do your monthly meeting, everyone asks a whole load of questions, but if it takes so long to get to an answer, you've lost the will to live normally by, the relevance has gone by that stage. So being able to get to answers really quickly, and our audience builder is fundamental. So, I would say we're Lifetime is cheaper than us, Triple Whale and Northbeam are more expensive than us. Their selling point used to be that they could solve attribution. They've rolled back from that ridiculous claim that anybody can solve attribution, and so we sort of sit in the middle. So my view is you need a suite, but you can rely on native attribution, which is what we obviously build. We do have a tracker. I do all the attribution piece as well, but for most brands, the way to operate, in my view, is to effectively follow the trajectory on your native platform, and use Suite for understanding your customer, understanding your real performance, because they never tie in as they are. And VA is really important in this mix as well.
Got it. Very funny you say it. So we obviously work with different departments, different clients using both Triple Whale and Northwing. Nothing against the tools, but it doesn't enable, none of us are looking at the same dashboards. No one is basically syncing up at all. Exactly like you say, how can we sync up different departments, different, channels? It's just, I don't know if it's just a communication issue or is it potentially the platform. I think it's probably both. But we don't sing from the same songbook. It's extremely interesting. So you saying that if the tool stimulates more of that, it's a win in my books.
Exactly that, and the world is siloed, unfortunately. You I suspect you probably work on email mainly. Yeah, what the guys on Google Ads are doing is, probably someone else they talk to. And my own experience as a retailer is, one of my investors had the agency I used to run, and I ran a big furniture business, and we spent lots of money. And he sold me a vision that I could be channel neutral, and he'd build it all on data. It was absolute bollocks, but the principle is right, which is that I should be channel neutral, and I should be able to actually come back down to how much money, because I used to go to these meetings and I'd go and see the PPC guy who would tell me a lovely story, and I'd walk out of there warm and fuzzy. I'd go and see the social guy, I'd walk out warm and fuzzy. And then actually I went home and I realized I hadn't got so much money in the till, and life wasn't quite as warm and fuzzy. And so it's really important to always bring everything back down to the hard cash number. But you're never in this world going to get perfect attribution between all those. And I think it's really it's a problem, I think, that sometimes people expect they still can, but I have a tracker, we can do attribution, but it's not where I feel that most people should be spending on their time. Most of their time should be spent focusing on making things better that's in their control, rather than looking at whether they can understand attribution.
Trying to find the sweet spots. Talk to me quickly before we move on and almost wrap up. I know the big thing for BI tools, of course, integrations. I'm looking at your integration page here. It looks quite extensive. If you just want to quickly summarize some of the key ones you see pop up constantly.
So from a sort of core platform perspective, we have native integrations: Shopify, Magento, WooCommerce, BigCommerce, and then really importantly, Amazon. And I just want to stress, there's lots of movement on the Amazon world. We're beginning to link into AMC. So effectively, in the same way you can push data into Facebook and Google, we can now push that into Amazon as well for AMC clients, and
Mm.
it's really that's really important. So those are our 4, and then most importantly 5 core ecom platforms, and then there are marketing platforms that we don't integrate with, but most of the big ones plus Awin and all the things we have integrations with. So exactly that. And then what we're particularly looking, and we were talking about something beforehand, but particularly looking for is any other platform that writes a tag into Shopify. We're really interested in, because then that obviously means we understand, we can segment data on tags, and it allows us to understand. So we've used the direct mail example, which is us effectively creating an order tag, but a number of other platforms, if you're doing A/B tests with IntelliGems or one of those kind of things, they write tags into Shopify. More and more platforms are writing tags into Shopify, so we can understand, they can effectively claim that order. And what that allows us to do is then understand things like lifetime value against those customers and lots of other things. So, clearly there are things that we don't integrate to, but I'd like to think, as you say, it's quite comprehensive, our page, and most of the core platforms, I'd like to think.
And then recharge for retention, subscription stuff. I'm seeing MailChimp, Klaviyo, Sendinblue, all of those. Yeah, Zendesk. Yeah. Pretty impressive. And of course, you can marry up all the data that you can pull. So I can marry up customer support data with email data if I ever need that.
Exactly that. So if you've created something that we can pull in against in what we call a custom field, we can pull those in.
Oh, pretty smart. Very cool. Last one before we close off here. Talk to me a little bit about, again, for the people, I'm not distracted, I'm not working on my shopping list on the right here. I'm looking at a ton of case studies on your website. Any particular ones you want to highlight?
Yeah, thank you. I mean, we're working very heavily at the moment with a brand called Lemur, which I think is there, that's a really successful equestrian brand here in the UK. And one of the things we tend to get dragged into, because we've got access to all this great data, is into due diligence type work. So on this particular one, we're doing a lot of DD work at the moment. Investors like all those metrics that we've been talking about, customer lifetime value, CAC, and we get to those. So that's one area where is a great case study. There's another one there for a brand called Addison Ross, which we've worked from the point where they turned over 80,000, and this year we're on a journey to 10 million, and we're probably halfway along that journey. And it's sometimes quite difficult to say what is the ROI on understanding your numbers, but the ROI on your numbers is that basically you tend to be better decision makers, and that's what we want to do, is we want to make sure that people have got access to those core bits of information. So those are probably a couple of growth ones, and then I think we've probably got some case studies there around particular interfaces with email platform, etc.
I'm spotting some of them. Yeah, very, very nice. How do we get started? I see on the page free trials, reach out to you, book a demo.
Exactly that usual stuff. Yeah, I'm oliver.spark@sweetanalytics.com. But yeah, just kick off. I mean, anyone really wants to just kick off a free trial that takes you to a wizard. The team would then pick up. So again, now if they want to then say that we've been introduced by you, we'll pick that up as we go forward into discussion. So, but yeah, it would be great. We'd love to cross over between the two of us.
I appreciate your time, and the one thing that I'll leave the audience with, and again, I'm just spotting this on your website, is insights for better decisions, no data overwhelm, which I think is the core thing we are trying to solve here, is how we are extremely overwhelmed with all the data at hand, unifying things, and we know it cripples our ability to make decisions. So I do like, if you can just solve that one thing for people. I know it's more complicated than that. I see it as a big success. So appreciate your time and sharing the platform, the insights, and what you unlock here for people. And I'm hoping people will absolutely jump on this opportunity to just better their data.
Lovely. Well, thank you so much. I've really enjoyed it. We'll hopefully you and I will chat again. and I'll stop the recording, and